Proview Network crew, assemble!
That's good for first.
High school sports are back live on Proview Sports Network.
Hey, welcome to the Steve Davis Show. Special guest today is Gary Johnson, running for the U.S. Senate for the Libertarian Party. And Gary, thanks for coming on.
Oh man, thanks for having me on.
You know, I said this earlier to you, it was like, you know, what a great run you've had, and you're still running, and that's what intrigues me. And I got to ask this question: why jump into the race now?
Well, of course, you can't win. You can't win if you don't line up. And why now? Well, it came as a complete surprise to me. Aubrey Dunn came to me, said that he was wanting to drop out of the race and that he wanted to name me as his replacement, and that I had the possibility of winning. And we looked at it, and that possibility does exist. And what's at stake is potentially being the swing vote in the U.S. Senate.
And what I say this is a great run for you. I mean, you know, two-time government, and you ran for the presidency, and now you're taking this new challenge on, and just, I haven't really known you, but I have friends that have known you, and you know, you always have been. I've always admired what you've stood for and everything, and we've really never met, never ever talked, but. And one of the biggest things is you're a sports guy. I mean, that's what's so great. Most guys they really don't get into the sports and are active in the sports.
Well, and to this day, I consider myself an athlete, a competitive athlete. Now, that's a bit of an oxymoron at 65 years old, but you know, this last
summer. I didn't think you were a day over 64, though. Looking good.
Well, just a couple of months ago, I finished the Continental Divide mountain bike race for the second year in a row. 2,800 miles, Banff, Canada to Antelope Wells, New Mexico, self-supported, and it was a race. This year it took me 28 days. The year before it took me 35. So I'm a week faster, and I bought my new bike for next year. So if I'm not elected to the U.S. Senate, I'm going to do that for the third year.
Go back to that training.
And I've had the good fortune to climb the highest mountain on each of the 7 continents, which all just comes back to athletics and competing. I've probably competed in 500 athletic events over the years, and I live about 12 miles from Taos Ski Valley, so I ski 100 days a season every year. So athletics is a huge part of my life.
Back to that Mount Everest, that's a dream of almost everybody.
Yes, it is.
And did you have to be really in good condition? I mean, was there points where you were scared, or you watch movies about the thing, and was it some of those experiences you see on movies real life experiences?
Well, there was never an issue of fitness. That was not an issue. But there was at one point on that climb, there was a period of several minutes where I really thought I was going to die, and that was very real. And holy cow, it did not.
Was it cold, or was it one with the cold, or the elevation, or just breathing, or?
Well, this had to do with we went through the ice fall. We went up and down the mountain 6 times. 6th time was the summit, but it was going up the mountain, coming back down, going up a little bit higher, staying a little bit longer, coming back down to base camp. Very textbook acclimatization. But the most dangerous, and by the way, the ice fall moves at a statistical rate of 6 inches a day. It moves downhill. So it's in a constant state of collapse. And collapse, they're buildings, ice chunks the size of buildings that collapse. So the route would change every single time because of the collapse of all this ice. Well, the most precarious point in the entire ice fall was a place we called the fin. It was very narrow. It was about 30 feet tall down the other side, and it was wedged in, so you had to go up the ladders, down the ladders. And the last time we came through, the fin was still standing after all this time. We got to the very top of the fin, and under oath, I would have said that the earth was moving. There was just loud crashing, banging sounds. And under oath, I would have said that the earth was moving, and we were on top of the fin, which was about the size of this table right here. And it was over. Well, it turns out that the crashing, all that sound was underneath the ice. You could hear it, but nothing happened. We scurried off of it. But for that period of a couple of minutes, it was over, because when that collapsed, it was going to be in a very narrow spot, and there was going to be no surviving that. Wow.
Well, I'll tell you what, you got chills up my spine just hearing about you talking about it. And so, I mean, it looks like you didn't learn. You're back up going into the mountains, so it's something that you must love and cherish.
Well, the athletics, I think, has been so. And you having played Lobo basketball, I guess I'm grateful that I never went out for the Lobo team, because if I'd have just scored 2 points in a Lobo game, I would have probably been content for the rest of my life, as opposed to fitness for life. I mean,
well, knowing you, if you would have scored 2, you just would have scored more and more. So I mean, that's what a true athlete is you're never content with just scoring 2. And I think the biggest thrill of any sports guy that plays is just playing in the pit and playing in front of it.
Man.
At that time, 18,000.
Oh my gosh, right. I being one of those 18,000 people screaming.
Well, Gary, Sandia High School graduate?
Sandia High School graduate, yeah.
And at that time, if I'm correct, Sandia was probably one of the biggest schools in the APS at that time.
I graduated in the largest graduating high school class in the history of New Mexico to this day. 1,150 graduates in my graduating class, because El Dorado hadn't opened yet, or the year they opened, they didn't open with a senior class. The seniors stayed at Sandia, so that was the reason for why it was so big.
Well, we're going to go to the Dream Style Top 10 Plays of the Week and come back and talk about Gary Johnson and his quest to become the U.S. Senator.
We'll see what happens.
Twins out to the right side. Gonna throw it again over the middle. Has a man wide open, caught. And that's going to be a touchdown for Jeremy Rotert. And the Rams are back in it. 2 plays.
Pressure coming to Balizan. He's going to heave it up. This one's up for grabs, and it's caught.
Down there, that's all I know. 2nd and 5. Summer, quick out again. It's Robertson. He's again wide open out of the backfield. He makes one miss. He's got a blocker in front. And look out, Nas Robertson. The outside, it's picked off. It's one-handed. Intercepted at the 33. It's some room on the outside.
Lowest 0. There it is. Quick pass ball's going to be caught by Ailman. Ailman spinning away at the 10. Ailman to the 5. Dives for the end zone.
Mariana Sharp will serve. Here's Martinez. Kept up, Mortensen. Back row, McIntosh to put it away, no. Free ball over. McIntosh on the outside for the win! APS Metro champs again! It's La Cueva. 25-21 the final.
Oh, that's a lateral. Here's another pass.
And now he's going to throw it. And now he's going to look back and
wide
throw it to
open.
Marcus
To
Steele. Steele's got it at the 5. He's going to dive to the end zone.
Touchdown.
Touchdown.
We should get pretty good field position to start here. Feel it at the 45. Still on his feet. Missed a couple tackles. Plenty of green up in front. Quesada with an opening house call for the Huskies.
Yeah, I can't see him punting inside the 35. They're only about the 32-yard line. Statue of Liberty.
It is the Statue of Liberty, Tom, and it's Williams, and he's going to take it all the way.
Ailman goes in motion. They're going to keep it coming right up the middle. Got some daylight at the 40 midfield. One man to get by, has a blocker in front, cuts it back to the left, to the 20, back to the right. This is going to be 6 for Las Cruces, and that's Ivan Molina.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game.
Hey, welcome back to Steve Davis Show. We got Gary Johnson here, running for the U.S. Senate for the Libertarian Party, and you know, we got you through high school, and kind of give me or give the audience a little bit of, you know, how you got to where you are today, you know, from high school.
Well, one of the reasons for coming on here, if not the main reason, is athletics has played such a big role in my life. I mean, when you go back, for me, going back to grade school, I played all the sports. I played every single sport. And I made a vow to myself that when I wasn't going to start at those sports, well, I'd move on and do something else. So the notion of being fit for life, that's something that stuck with me. I'm the jack of all, I'm the master of none, and maybe if I would have been the master of anything, I wouldn't be as fit as I am today, but I still am about as fit as you can be for being 65 years old. And having played all those sports, you know, softball after college, in college, skiing, staying active.
Skiing's been a big staple of your life, and that's where my friend Steve Emery, and I think y'all have made many ski trips in your lifetime.
Well, many ski trips. I live 12 miles from Taos Ski Valley. Taos is as good a skiing as anywhere on the planet. And, you know, the recent cuts to UNM athletics that cut out the men's ski team. You know that Taos Ski Valley sold to Louis Bacon, and he has pledged to put $300 million into Taos Ski Valley over 10 years. And in 4 years, we've seen 200 of the 300. So for UNM to have won the national championship with the ski team, I think that brings a lot of focus on what? Skiing, New Mexico? And then, yes, and Taos comes out of that with, Taos is as good a skiing as anywhere. Well, you know, cutting those sports from UNM, I think it's wrong. And it starts with being wrong to the kids that have been involved in those programs and dedicated their lives to those sports.
Not to put you on, you know, with that being said, and I did talk with Ed Nunez. In fact, he was actually in here about 2 weeks ago, and really, I hear that. I mean, I'm one that I think you should never cut any sport. Okay, I just, you know, that's just like, you know, for what sports have done for me and what every person that somewhere in everybody's life, they played some kind of sport.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it's been, and maybe they weren't as successful as other people, but they had coaches, they had somebody, you know, pushing them, trying to teach them values of good things. But, you know, his thing is, you know, is being stable for many years to come. I mean, he's in the hot seat, and he's getting, you know, and he's in actually a bad position because he inherited a lot of things that he never had control of when he got into it. Similar like when you became the new governor and on things, you had to deal with things. But how would you approach that? I mean, from something I don't really understand from a political world.
Well, my understanding is that at the last minute, the Legislative Finance Committee came in and said, we will fund these programs. Now, you know, you pointed out this long term. Well, long term, don't we? Soccer, men's soccer, this is the future of sports. And
number one growing sport in America. So
well, in America and certainly and in the world.
Right.
And we're going to cut that. I just think that's very, very nearsighted. That's not long-sighted at all.
Good point. Very good point. And you know, that's one thing. And then the other thing, you know, we're seeing cuts in high school and money cuts and things, and you know, those are probably kind of something I'm concerned about, just for what athletics has done for Proview Networks and also for me personally.
Well, and I think that these issues are best solved at the most local level, so the schools involved. These are issues that the schools involved in should be dealing with, but sports has been a huge part, as you point out, of virtually everyone's life, and in a positive way. There's just really no takeaway that isn't value added in all of our lives. So. If I'm involved with the school board at the local level, that's not something I'm going to cut.
Well, that's good to hear. And that's, you know, and it's always amazing to me when and like, it's the first thing I read is when there's going to be cuts to, you know, and just so I'm more local as to APS, and I'm sure it's across the whole state. I mean, it's the first thing that people look at is to cut athletics or cut things, and I'm like. And you go to UNM and the economic situation they're in right now, and seeing that they're cutting, like you said, athletes, and you hit it right on the head. Basically, is really the national attention that we get when our athletes do well.
Oh my gosh! And in this case, we've had 2 NCAA champions, the men's skiing and women's cross country. Boy, that did get us a lot of attention, and attention from the standpoint of worldwide skiers that New Mexico has a ski team, and then, okay, well, let's just focus on skiing in New Mexico, and it's a treasure. And nearsighted that sport got cut, nearsighted that soccer gets cut. When kids that play soccer, you know, their GPA is higher than any other sport, And so these are really smart kids that we'd like them to stay in New Mexico and grow businesses as entrepreneurs in New Mexico. But they're not going to even come here because skiing doesn't exist or soccer doesn't exist. And I'm using those two as an example because those are the sports that got cut. Give me a break.
Hey, well, Gary, let's come back and we'll talk more about sports and talk about things that you can do for the future of sports.
Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network. Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Sadie's is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school sports and athletics, and we here at Proview Networks would like to thank Sadie's for their continued support in helping us bring you all of your New Mexico high school sports coverage.
Folks, there's no other way but to be all in. Either he's Lord of all or he is not Lord at all. And you can experience the real and authentic, true life change that only God can provide to humanity. See, when we truly encounter Jesus and purpose to know him and follow his teachings, hashtag life change will occur.
Hey, welcome back to the Steve Davis Show. We got Gary Johnson running for the U.S. Senate for the Libertarian Party, and we have Marty Watts. Actually, the reason Gary Johnson is here, and I want to thank Marty for you getting Gary Johnson on the Steve Davis Show.
Well, I hadn't seen Gary for a long time, but when we were in high school, we were good friends.
Well, we were, and Marty was the heart of every team he was on, heart of the football team. Nobody hit harder than Marty. Marty was fast. Marty was... I cannot say enough about Marty Watts, and I've said that my entire life.
Well, Gary, I want to let you know he's your biggest fan, and for the last
it's a two-way street.
The last 3 days, I learned more about you. Maybe I should more information than maybe I needed to know. But what a great friendship you guys have.
You know, when he was running for governor, I was in Chicago running an IT company called Microtech. And people would come up to me and say, "Who's this Gary Johnson?" I said, "What you see on TV is the real thing. That's the guy I knew in high school. You haven't changed. You always catch who you are, you know. You never try to be something you're not. You're just being Gary Johnson, the guy I knew from Sandia High School."
I remember one particular practice where I was playing linebacker. Marty got the handoff, and I stuck Marty Watts, something I'd never done before. And it rung my bell, and nobody gave me any credit for it at all.
No, it must have, because you got into politics.
There you go. There we go. It was a hard head hit.
Well, you know, it's a funny thing. It was my desire when I was out of high school to get in politics. I became the state chairman of the Young Republicans. I got involved with Pete Dominican, and I got involved in my only gubernatorial campaign when when Joe Skeen ran against Gary Apodaca. We lost in the last, late at night from Rio Arriba County. We had like a 3,000 vote lead. And I remember Pete Domenici coming in at the Four Seasons in our VIP suite and said, you know, it's all over, folks, because that guy's going to wait for the last vote and then he's going to turn it in. And that was election, I think, was stolen from the people in New Mexico. But that's, in those days, that's how it went. And if you're going to become a Republican governor, you better have a 10,000 vote lead going into the last, to Rio Arriba County, right? So they couldn't overcome it.
Well, and a great experience having been governor of New Mexico. Really, it was a thrill to be involved in making decisions on behalf of the state of New Mexico, and
decisions that still are in PAC right now.
Well, and just that it had a root in common sense. It was all about common sense, and is this going to be good for New Mexico? Is this going to be good for citizens of New Mexico? And in that context, I may have vetoed more legislation than the other 49 governors in the country combined, but look, if legislation only adds time and money to our lives and doesn't really make a difference, why have the legislation? The laws already exist.
Well, you know, the one thing I was proud of you is when I heard that you climbed Mount Everest, I said, wow. I said, there's a guy I knew that climbed the tallest mountain in the world. But tell me, did you worked on getting there many, many years, trying to get yourself in that position, right?
Well, fit for life. I've done Ironman Hawaii 4 times. I've run the Leadville 100-mile run. I've probably done 100 different triathlons. I've run 30 marathons. So people would ask me, well, what did you do to get ready for Mount Everest? Well, actually, 6 weeks before I left for Mount Everest, I broke my leg. I had a full fracture of my tibia and went to Mount Everest with a healing broken leg.
And one thing that you've really done good about that is you've promoted New Mexico the whole time. That even when you weren't in office, and the whole thing was about the roots of New Mexico. And a lot of people that move up in the level of deal, they kind of forget about the roots. And I want to thank you for. I have a great passion for New Mexico.
Oh, I have a great yes, just so many wonderful athletes from New Mexico. I had the good fortune to listen to Brian Urlacher last week down in Carlsbad, and he talked about how he's now taken up mountain biking. So, you know, that's my mountain biking is my passion, along with skiing.
The thing I was proud about, Gary, is Gary and I, we grew up in a middle-class neighborhood. I went to Inez, you went to what? Hoover, and I went to Monroe Junior High School, and we grew up in a middle-class neighborhood. Our parents just had a middle-class living. We didn't have a lot of money. I mean, I was so proud to have a junky car to drive to school. Okay?
Right. No, and that's right.
I was jealous of Randy Horn because he had an MB convertible. Remember?
I do.
And then. When I look back, Sandia High School, and people don't know this, we're the only high school in New Mexico that produced 2 governors. We produced Janet
Napolitano,
and she was our valedictorian 3 years behind us. But we produced him, and of course she ran for president, and of course she was on the cabinet of Barack Obama, and so, and no other high school, as far as I know, and I've done my research, no high school in Albuquerque has produced 2 governors.
Well, and Marty and I graduated from the largest class in the history of New Mexico, 1,150 students. So
took all day to get through the procedure at the pit. You talking about the pit?
I didn't know that you got through, though. I was worried that you didn't get through.
And well, you know, everybody, when Gary knows this, my full name is Martin Luther Watts Jr., and of course a name like that, growing up in Albuquerque with Martin Luther King and stuff, everybody made fun of me. That's why I went by Marty.
Well, and you didn't want to make fun of Marty, because that would come back to bite, because Marty was as hard a working an individual as exists on this planet.
And
well, Gary, I want to thank you for coming on the show with us. And,
thank you guys.
And I tell you what.
What a treat to see Marty after all these years.
And I tell you, I know you got an uphill battle, but I'm glad you're in the race.
Well, and you can't win if you don't line up. You just can't win if you don't line up, and we'll work hard, and that's all you can do.
Well, thanks a lot for coming on the Steve Davis Show.
Steve, thank you so much.
Thank you
Marty,
very much.
great seeing you.